Well, good morning, everybody. This is DearMamaSal on a very snowy morning. It's still snowing. It's been snowing for like 36 hours now, which in my neck of the woods is very unusual. So you're going to see lots of winter wonderland, I hope, as I drive. Now, of course, it's extremely scary. It's way more scary here than it would be probably in your neck of the woods, because we're not used to it. You know, we're a bit like the South. You know, snow is not something that we do a lot of. So when we get it, we really have a little bit of a problem dealing with it. So, and this is considered a heavy dump for us. We must have had at my place it looks like about 7 to 9 inches, which is very unusual indeed. Very pretty until this morning when you got to drive in it, then it's not so much fun. So I'm not 100% sure how this drive into work is going to be, but what I do know is I'm going to be safe rather than sorry. Now, what I mean by that is I'm going to be extra aware of cars coming towards me and cars around me, because just because I've got good tires on my car does not mean that the bozo coming at me does, if you get my drift. So, or the person next to me, or, God forbid, the person behind me. Now, the only good thing I have to protect my rear end is I have a tail hitch on here, which sort of protects me a little bit, because people don't like to run into a tail hitch because it does a lot of damage. And my attitude is, if you ram me from behind, that's your problem, not mine. Anyway, so I cleaned off my car twice yesterday, and I still had 3 to 4 inches of snow on top of my car. I wish you could see the top of my car. The top of my car is very pretty. I can't reach that far. So I got this mountain on top of my car, which probably is highly illegal. And if anybody stops me, I will give them full permission to take the snow off the top of my car. But I can't reach it. So that's it. The other thing that I find interesting, because you know I get amused by things quite easily. The other thing that really interests me is you can really tell the people who keep their car in the garage. They've got these perfectly clean cars. They did not spend 10 minutes cleaning off the car enough so that they could get in them this morning. Oh, aren't they the lucky people? Mind you, there were the days I used to be able to put my car in the garage as well. That's before it became my storeroom. I wonder if any of you relate to them. So, let me try and make sure that you've got the best view possible here. Now, I've just realized that I didn't clean a window, which is probably the one window that you can see out of. That's very unfortunate. Purely a mistake on my part, but I'm hoping that the internal temperature of the car, as it warms up, will help clean that window up. Bitterly. So, -3 here in British Columbia, and that would be 27 on the scale south of the border. I really had a great weekend. My sleep pattern is totally destroyed because of the Olympics. But it really was a great weekend. And as some of you saw, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday to watch the gold medal game and drank copious amounts of coffee to keep me awake so that I wouldn't fall asleep halfway through and miss the thing. I really did realize, though, that as I was watching it, that if we won it, it would all be well worthwhile. And if we lost it, I'd be wondering what the heck I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning for. So I had sort of like a personal interest over and above. I nearly didn't put on my Canadian Olympics 2010 hockey jersey. Nearly didn't put it on, and then I thought, no, I've worn it for every game. If I don't wear it for this game and they lose, I'll never forgive myself. So I guess I'm more superstitious than I give myself credit for. But it really was quite funny. So I did get that nicely washed yesterday. It's going to go away again for another 4 years. But it has worked very well. It's worked well for 2 Olympics, so I have no reason to believe it won't continue to work well. And this year it did double duty because I also wore it for the women's games. So that was great fun. But I thoroughly enjoyed watching. Now, I'm talking to people on the broadcasts, and there seems to have been quite a lack of interest in the Olympics, or at least from my viewers that come onto the broadcast. I didn't find many people that were tuned in the way that I was. So, and the discussion was that people seem to prefer the summer to the winter Olympics. So that was interesting. And then some people intellectually didn't watch it because it was Russia and because of their stance on gay rights and so forth. So, and I understood that as well. They were boycotting it in their own way, and everybody has their right to do that, and I totally understand why they'd be that upset and have those beliefs. And I think it's wonderful that we can do that. Aren't we lucky that we live in countries where we're allowed to do that, where we're allowed to voice our opinion and have those opinions and make those sort of actions known in our own way and not be in fear. Now, if I heard it correctly on the news this morning, and I don't want to misquote the state, but I believe one of the states in the US has suddenly decided to pass a law, and it's something really weird, like serving gay people, that businesses may not serve gay people, something really weird like that. And it's a major state. I mean, it's not some rinky-dink borough. It's a major state. So I'm going, wow, are we going backwards or what here? Very strange. The greatest news, without a doubt, this weekend was not the Olympics and the gold medal, although it was close. But the greatest news is that we heard from Leslie. Now, for those of you who don't know, Leslie is agoraphobic. That's somebody who doesn't, is too fearful to go outside. And when we met Leslie 8 months ago, I think it's about 8 months, 6 to 8 months, somewhere in there, she was scared to even go past an open door, never mind go outside, through it and outside. And then over the months she has, we have challenged her and supported her to, literally sit at an open door. Obviously that wasn't in this weather. And then, take a couple of steps out and come straight back in again, and then take 4 steps and so forth. And I know that she's had the help of a really good social worker as well, or a couple of them. And what was amazing was that this weekend she told us that she actually drove a car. And she drove it for some time. It wasn't just like 5 minutes. Well, I don't mind telling you that I was crying, and I think a lot of other viewers were crying as well, and I couldn't see them obviously, but my sense was that they were, because that's about a story of courage. And that's a story of overcoming your fears. And nobody else can do that for you. I think that's the scariest thing about fear. Nobody can overcome fear for you. People can encourage you. People can give you the tools. But if you don't decide to overcome it, you won't. So part of me goes, I'd like to do a series of stories on this. And I'm pretty sure with the viewership that we have today, that there are a lot of you that have in your own way overcome your own fears. And I'd certainly like to hear about them if you would care to share them. Now obviously, a lot of you who are regulars know that I overcame my fear of being able to cope without smoking. And I did that January a year ago, January the 12th, 9 o'clock in the morning. Excuse me. I gave up smoking. And I am certain that a lot of you have overcome your own fears. I was wondering whether any of you, have overcome something like claustrophobia or any other of the known fears. And then I'd also like to know if any of you have got fears that you would like to overcome. Now I did hear that one of our viewers also has a fear of actually being driven by somebody else. So that makes it very difficult for him to go in cars or buses or trains. And therefore, it also makes it difficult for him to go out at all if he can't walk where he's going. And so what I encouraged him to do was to actually, the same as we did with Leslie. You see, what we did with Leslie when we first met her was to ask her, what would being able to go outside mean to you? What would be the goal in that? What would be the reward? Because I think you've got to look at that. What's the reward in not smoking? Supposedly better health, which didn't happen in my case. But you've got to sort of look at it and go, okay, what is the upside of this? And so I remember that Leslie's answer to me was, it would be freedom. And I can't help thinking that my viewer who doesn't like to go in a car with anybody or in a bus or a train. And I asked him what happens, why was that a problem? And he said because he cannot control it. He is not in control of the vehicle. And so the issue is a control issue. Now, I know I've got quite a few viewers that have similar type issues, but maybe manifesting in different ways. Some of you have OCD type control issues. In other words, you have to have things exactly in the right place, and that's your control. My golly gee, I don't know if you can see outside my windows at all, but the trees around here are so laden with snow, the branches are touching the ground, which is absolutely beautiful on the one side. But of course, you and I both know that that could also cause a lot of tree limbs to crack and cause bigger problems. By the way, one of the things that really concerned me this morning was, why was I stupid enough to do my hair? Because as soon as I got outside, I had to put the hood up on my coat, and I love this coat because it is so warm, and it's warm in the rain, and it's, you know, you can go out in a really serious rainstorm, and because it's filled with duck down, or yeah, I think it's duck down, because it's filled with down, you don't get wet. Whereas if you're wearing a raincoat, you know, you would. And I just love the insulating properties of down. So, but anyway, the thing is that, of course, oh, look at that, there's another car with a snow hat on. I'm not the only one. I'm happy now. They obviously had heavy snow too. And short arms. So, I wonder what the heck I was talking about. Oh yeah. There are going to be a lot of branches that come down, which will be sad. But if we're lucky, it is possible that this Arctic blast, whatever it is that we've got going on here, will stop as quickly as it started and turn to rain. And if it turns to rain, then the branches won't break. But everything around here is so pretty. It really is picture postcard pretty. I guess there won't be too many people at work necessarily. Mind you, all the major roads are salted and clear. I always say if I can get to the major road, I'm fine. The only difficult part of my journey is getting from my house to the major road. That's, if I can do that, then I'm fine. Now that's weird. Really weird. I mean, it's -2, and I've just come across 2 lots of standing water. In other words, where obviously it started to melt. I wouldn't have thought it was warm enough for the snow to start melting. Huh. Very pretty. Oh, another snow hat. Another person with short arms. Actually, that one has got a lazy snow hat. You know, they didn't even bother to try and get to it. So, fear is a very difficult thing. And when I look at how many people suffer from, I think we all suffer from fear in different degrees. And some people overcome their fear on a daily basis. I don't think that there's such a thing as a person without fear. Just most people who are fairly healthy, let's put it that way. I say healthy, but you know what I mean by this. They learn to control their fear. In other words, as Susan Jeffers once said, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway. So it's a thing of we need to overcome that fear of whatever it is, or we can keep the excuse. And that's the other thing that, again, is a bit of a problem, which is you understand there are lots of benefits to being controlled by the fear of whatever it is. I remember saying to Leslie one day, have a look at the upside of being housebound. If you have agoraphobia and you can't leave the house, it means that nobody can send you out shopping, or nobody can make you go to work, or stuff like that. You can't leave the house, or whatever work you do, you get to do it in your jammies if you want to. But so you understand that there's normally an upside to this as well, and it takes a lot of self-realization and a lot of honesty to look at the upside and see that we get some sort of benefit from whatever the fear is. I know one person that has a real fear of flying. And it's not imaginary, it's a real fear. But it's always interesting to me that person was born in Europe and lives in the United States. Now, they didn't swim the ocean, and they did not come by sea. They flew into the States. So we know that person, if suitably drugged, can fly. It's not impossible. So what I'm going to do is, during the next week or so, I'm going to try and get some examples of different ways of coping with these fears. I want to go back to the viewer that I've got that has this fear of being in a car or a train or whatever. And one of the things that I suggested to this person was, now first of all, you understand that person has to want to be able to overcome this. And they have to want to do it the same way that Leslie did. They have to really want to change. The same as I really needed to want to stop smoking, to stop smoking. It wasn't a case of, oh, I will try. Right? It was, this is it. And so the first step, and the step that I would ask you all to take, is what is it that, be aware, what is it that you fear? What would you get by not having that fear? In Leslie's case, it was freedom. And what benefit do you get by still having that fear? In Leslie's case, it was she didn't, I guess things like she didn't have to go shopping, or didn't have to go out and mow the lawn because she didn't get out of the house. All those sort of things. Get the idea? So have a good look at that. And if there are any people out there that also want to stop smoking and would like to know how I did it, because you understand I smoked my whole life from when I was 16. And I would gladly share what I did, because I didn't do it in a heartbeat. I did it over the course of about 18 months. And not a day goes by where I couldn't happily, pick up a cigarette, quite honestly. This weekend there were 2 separate occasions where I was cooking. It was really interesting, and I started to put something on to cook, and it was going to take 10 minutes, and I thought, I turned around to go and have a cigarette, because that's what normally I would do. And this is like over a year later, and I've still got that reaction. I've got to fill in 10 minutes here, so I'll have a cigarette. Can you believe that? Over a year later. Amazing. So I'm hoping that you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're listening to this or watching it. There are a lot of people that definitely are going to have a problem with this weather, but that's okay. I'm safely at work. And that's the only important thing, is to be safe. All right, everybody. Have a good day. I'm going to. Bye-bye for now.